Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Today, I'm bringing a special treat to you. I am introducing you to my friend and colleague, Sharon Appleby. Sharon Appleby specializes in a specific type of therapy that I think could be of great use to many of you. It's called inner bonding. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Stacey, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Explain to my viewers the type of therapy that you do. What is inner bonding?
Okay. Well, inner bonding is a proven 6-step self-healing process that was created over 30 years ago by my teacher, Dr. Margaret Paul, and Dr. Erica Chopich.
Mhm.
It has helped thousands and thousands of people around the world to heal from their trauma, their sexual, physical, emotional abuse, neglect, and the suffering, pain, and dysfunction that so many of us come from. So it's a practice that when you commit to it, it works, but it's a practice.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It empowers you to heal from the many different wounded feelings, such as anxiety, depression, anger, judgment, shame, guilt, on and on and on, and from our addictions, our failed relationships, and of course, many, many, many other problems and issues. So
I think that's at the core of so many of people who end up in an abusive or narcissistic marriage that ends in a high conflict divorce. So it's just when they come to me. But I think, that's probably the core problem there.
Yes, yes, and it is for many, many people.
I think it was for me, for sure. And
Mhm.
why did you decide to even go down this path? How did you find out about inner bonding?
So I think it was around 27 years ago that I took a 3-year psychotherapy program in a private office in Toronto
Mhm.
with many psychologists and therapists as our teachers. And there were 9 women who did this 3-year program. And after I completed my 500 hours, I was left with thinking, I don't know, I definitely need more. I did it for my own self healing, but I really also needed it if I wanted to come and help others. So I tried the different modalities of Gestalt and anger management. And then I was introduced and very highly encouraged by one of the 9 women who I took the program with, who
Mhm.
was persistent on me going to this weekend workshop called Inner Bonding, that Dr. Margaret Paul was coming from Los Angeles and giving this workshop. So luckily I went. And the moment I walked into that room, I had an immediate connection to her. And after that weekend, I was like, that inner knowing, when you know something feels right. I knew that this was the real deal. And that was
Mhm.
my thing. So I've been practicing this for over 25 years for myself, for my own healing, and decided to become a certified facilitator. I guess it's over 5 years now.
Congratulations. That's pretty amazing. So now that you're working with other clients for the last 5 years, tell us, what's the profile like? Who would most benefit from inner bonding?
I have not met a person that wouldn't benefit from inner bonding, to be truthful.
Mhm.
We really do. Many of us, most of us come from dysfunction and suffering, and we suffer in silence. We all feel that, we have this pain or the secrets, the shame, and we hide it from the world. We walk around with this persona that we're all okay. And certainly social media is indicative of that, with our selfies and this trip and that trip and look at my.
Mhm.
So it's for everybody. It's for everybody, because it's not only learning how to do the 6 steps of inner bonding, which is what I facilitate in. It is a ton of education. I educate, I share when appropriate, and I facilitate through the 6 steps. And eventually, you can do it on your own. You don't need to be in therapy forever. But it
That's
is,
amazing.
yeah, it's just not an easy practice to learn. But when you start and when you're open to it, it's life changing.
I would say the same on self-coaching. When I teach people how to coach themselves or the coaching model, I think it's a bit complex to figure out and learn. And it's definitely a practice, one that I am still working on 3 years later. Um, can you give us like a snippet or a taste of what a session would look like and feel like with you?
Yes, for sure. So, first of all, I do offer free consultation, so your clients can know that 30-minute consultation to see if it's a fit and if
Mhm.
they feel a connection with me. So, um, I first ask what they are looking for in therapy, what they want to get and achieve from therapy. And then I ask for a brief history from their
Yeah.
family of origin. And then, if there is something pressing, which usually there is, because that's what brings them to me, I start to facilitate them in step one of inner bonding, but I guide them through it. So there's no pressure, and there's no fear for them. I'm guiding them, and I'm with them. Um, I'm with them with compassion, no judgment, no judgment ever. And I'm walking beside them. I'm not above them as this person who knows what I'm doing. I'm walking beside them in their journey because
Do you
that's,
take them back in time, like in a therapeutic sense?
well, that's up to them. But I do ask for a brief history. And
Mhm.
some people want to go back and explore that, and some people don't. So I'm very respectful of that. And
Mhm.
as I do the work, and as they start getting more and more into it and doing it and practicing it, the memories start to flow and it opens up, and they do become some people become more comfortable going back into their history and exploring where their false beliefs, their self judgments came from, these old tapes that have been playing in our head for our lifetime.
Right.
So that's part of the education.
Mhm. Mhm. So my people are in the trenches, as you know. They are having bombs hurled at them from every which way. They are right in the trenches of a high conflict divorce, often experiencing a lot of post separation abuse. Is this something that you think could help them when they're in that place in their litigation?
Well, most people do come to me when they are feeling at their lowest point in their life. And I'm sure that's where your clients are feeling as well. So,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. That is the time. That is the time where um, I can offer them um, the work that we do in how to deal with conflicts, in how to have loving boundaries, things that were never role modeled for us, never taught to us. And that's the beginning where they can learn how to start to clear the neural pathways in the brain where we start to connect with ourselves. This work is about connecting to ourselves, no longer what's happening outside of ourselves. We don't have control with that. What we
Right.
do have control with is ourselves and how we are with ourselves by connecting with our feelings, with the older, wiser part of us, our inner knowing. And that is what's going to empower your clients and anybody who's looking for help. And that's where I help them.
Yes. Yeah. Really self validation and self partnering, self
Yes.
compassion.
Self compassion. This work is all about learning how to love ourselves, to find the compassion for ourselves and the self respect for ourselves and for everybody else.
So I guess the idea is improving the relationship with self.
Yes.
Will really globalize to all the other areas of your life.
Yes, it's transforming. It is
Yeah.
life transforming because when you change your internal thoughts and feelings and start to
Mhm.
connect with yourself and take responsibility for those feelings that you may be causing by saying or doing or not doing something, when you start to realize what's happening within yourself, it's life changing, because we cannot control anybody else. We can only
Right.
control ourselves. And it's us that's creating these issues, these wounded feelings. And it's us that can start to change that.
It's very aligned with the type of coaching that I do, but I think you would take it further in depth to some of these very painful, wounded feelings that come from the past.
Yes, our wounded feelings were created when we were quite young, and we had to survive our homes of dysfunction and abuse, or suffering, neglect. So that's where they originated. Unfortunately, they're continuing on in our mind subconsciously until we bring them to a conscious level of awareness. We don't even know they're going on. It's our default system. So when we become aware of them, then we can start to do something about it. And that is by finding out the truth about these false beliefs that we created when we were young, which we had to, because we couldn't have survived the deep, painful feelings and the hurt, the heartbreak, the loneliness, the helplessness. So we learned to blame ourselves and created these false beliefs. Mine were, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm flawed, I'm imperfect. And these false beliefs continue in my mind all the time until I recognize that this is not true. And I'm creating my own anxiety, my own depression by telling myself these things. And, you know, this was done in order to control, to get love and support from our parents, from our caregivers. Because we thought if we blamed ourselves, well, then we can control how they feel and think about us. And unfortunately,
which we have no control on.
No, but that false belief continues in our life today as we are triggered. And when we are triggered, it is that little person who created that belief. Say I created that at the age of 5. Well, it's my 5-year-old who is leading when I get triggered and fighting back and trying to control the other person to get love and to avoid painful feelings.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds so amazing. Now, I was just talking with a client today whose son, a teenage son, is struggling a lot with all of these things. Do you ever work with kids or adolescents, teenagers?
Absolutely. Yes, of course. Anybody, any age.
Okay, that could be of interest to some of my clients. Amazing.
Yes, and
and
our clients and their children are open to learning and growing, to looking at themselves. You know, we come from a very blaming society, a very blaming and angry society. And that's really what we learned, you know, how to blame, not to look at ourselves, but to blame others for how we feel, because we don't know how to handle the deep, painful feelings of life that really are existential, painful feelings, but nonetheless, we have to learn to deal with them, and we don't. And that's where we go off into our addictions, our distractions, whatever those addictions be. It could be social media, it could be pornography. It
just
could
to blunt the painful emotions.
To distract. It's to sweep those painful feelings under the rug, because that is what we were taught growing up. You know, don't be angry, don't be sad, don't cry. And that was the projection from our parents or our caregivers onto us, because they didn't know how to deal with their pain. So if they didn't, how could they deal with ours? So they told us, don't feel. So this is about connecting with our feelings. And it is imperative to connect with our feelings, because our feelings have all the information we need, all of the information.
I agree. A lot of people think the feelings discussion is not important, but I always remember it's feelings that drive our behaviors, all the things we do and all the things that we don't do. Our feelings really do matter so much.
Well, you know, our feelings and our thoughts are connected. So
Mhm.
when I start with a client and I ask them just to take some deep breaths and to transition from their thinking mind into their body and scan their body, where are they feeling any pain, discomfort, tightness, numbing, tingling? That is telling us, when we pay attention to our body, that something's going on. That's a red flag. So
Right.
connecting to our thoughts, what am I saying to myself that's creating this tightness in my chest, this pain in my solar plex? What am I telling myself? And when I open up and ask myself, well, I feel the anxiety inside, and I'm telling myself that I have to be perfect. I cannot make a mistake. I cannot fail. I cannot stutter in this interview, because if I do, I have this whole self-judgment that was created when I was young. But that's not true. Of course I can make a mistake. And of course I do not have to be perfect. But this is what this was a learned behavior. This was what was
That we
role
don't even question,
We
right?
don't-
Because we're not really even aware of it. We think our feelings are created by everything outside of us.
Right, right. And we live that way. We try to get people and others to value us, to love us, to like us. And when that happens is we are giving up ourselves to say, hey, take care of me, make me happy. And that's exactly what we do in our marriage. And that's why the
Yes.
divorce rate is so high, because this was what was role modeled for us. Get married. They're going to take care of us and make us happy and make us be okay. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, because I am not here to take care of my husband. I am here to learn how to love myself and take loving care of myself so that I have love to share. It's about sharing love. It's not about getting,
Absolutely.
because that's control. And we learned how to control really well, how to control others, to value us, to like us, to, make us
How
happy.
to behave in a way to manipulate their feelings about us.
Right. How to give ourselves up so that they like us. Yeah, exactly.
Amen, girl. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're on the same page. That's so great. I think so many of my followers would benefit from this. It's amazing. How would people get hold of you, Sharon? How can people find you?
Oh, I'm happy to share my phone number, so you can text me, my email address, and to set up a
Tell
free
us what your email is.
Sharon Appleby at Rogers.com,
Okay.
SharonAppleby at Rogers.com. Just
Perfect.
email me and I am happy to set up a free consultation, and we go on from there.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for having me.